Hey guys, tonight we begin at the edge of everything, floating just beneath the stars, rocked by the hush of moonlit waves. You're on your back, eyes barely open, lulled by the endless rhythm of water brushing against itself. It's quiet up here. The kind of quiet that makes you wonder if you're still above the world or if you've already slipped below it. The surface of the ocean at night feels less like a place and more like a veil. A membrane between our sunlit, gravity-bound existence and something ancient, best, alive in ways we don't fully understand. The moonlight kisses the wave crests in silver, but beneath you, there is nothing. Just darkness. Miles of it. You probably won't survive this. Not the way you are now. Not if you dove down in nothing but your skin. But this isn't a story about surviving. It's a story about feeling. About sensing what the deep sea does to the mind when it's allowed to roam there, unbothered, unafraid. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're watching from somewhere unusual, or even if you're tucked into the same blanket every night, post a location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where we all drift off from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your toes dip first. The salt water feels warmer than expected, almost welcoming. You tilt forward and glide into it, arms wide, like falling into an embrace. The first foot, the first 10 feet, everything still feels familiar. You can still see the moon above, distorted into shimmering ribbons on the underside of the surface. But you're not going to stay near the top. We're going down. Slowly. Thoughtfully. Imagine descending through a calm elevator of water. There's no resistance, just a gentle pull. The surface becomes quieter above you. Then fainter. Then gone. All around you, the liquid world begins to swallow color. Reds vanish first, absorbed before they get far. Then oranges. Then yellows. Within meters, everything is tinged in shades of cyan and navy. Even your skin turns an alien hue. Blue dominates because it's the last color to give up the fight against depth. You breathe slowly. If you close your eyes, you can feel the pressure increase. Not crushing, not yet, but like a gentle hand on your chest reminding you, this isn't your world. Not really. Tiny bubbles race upward around you, zipping toward the light you're leaving behind. Above, it's still bright, but that won't last. The creatures of the surface, the darting fish, the corals, the sea turtles, have no need to come this far. They live in sun-drenched shallows, where plankton bloom and the food chain buzzes with life. But as we descend, those frantic ecosystems fall away. Their colors and chaos fade like a memory. Below 200 meters, we enter the mesopelagic zone, often called the twilight zone. It's not total darkness, not yet, but it's dim enough that your eyes begin to strain. This is where many fish develop huge eyes, trying to catch the last flickers of sun from above. But for us, human eyes, it's already disorienting. You're starting to notice the silence. Not the silence of a quiet room or a forest at night. No, this is something heavier. It's not the absence of sound. It's the absence of a need for sound. The sea doesn't care if you speak. It never did. Your breath slows. Your body's awareness shifts. No ground beneath you. No sky above. Just a sphere of water swallowing gravity and direction. The rhythm of your heartbeat becomes clearer than the ocean's movement now. Then, faintly, something glimmers in the corner of your vision. A tiny flicker. Like a firefly, but cooler in tone. Then another. And another. Bioluminescence. Nature's most secretive light show. Down here, organisms make their own glow. They have to. There's no sunlight left to steal. And so they've adapted to lure prey, to attract mates, to signal warnings. It's not light like we know it. It pulses in blues and greens, sometimes red. A slow, hypnotic dance. Tiny comb jellies flicker like living fiber optics. A siphonophore, longer than a bus, trails shimmering dots along its transparent body like a floating necklace of stars. Lanternfish blink as they pass, each species with its own specific light code. You drift downward through them, as if falling through a night sky made of creatures instead of clouds. The pressure grows, but it's still kind. Still just whispering. Still reminding you you're entering a different rhythm. A world not built on seconds and schedules, but tides and instinct. Somewhere far below, a whale's song echoes, not close, but present. Deep, melancholy, like a memory of a memory. You realize you've already left the world, And it happens so quietly. The descent continues. The sunlight is gone now. You don't notice the exact moment it disappears. It doesn't flick off like a switch. It bleeds away slowly, like the end of a long exhale. And before you realize it, your world is blue no longer. It's gray, then black. Not empty black, but full like velvet, like ink, like something ancient is pressing softly against your skin from every direction. Down here, in the upper reaches of the midnight zone, color becomes a memory. Only the strangest shades of life remain. Reds, as you learn above, vanish quickly. So deep-sea creatures that want to hide evolve red skin. To us, they're practically invisible. Imagine that, being the color of nothing. Wearing the cloak of the deep. As you continue your descent, the temperature drops. Not sharply, but certainly. The ocean is no longer inviting. It's cool in a way that makes you tighten your thoughts, slow your heartbeat. This isn't punishment, it's just the terms of the contract. Down here, energy is precious. Warmth is rare. Everything slows down, even you. You move less now, not because you're afraid, but because motion here feels unnecessary. Your limbs relax. Your spine seems to stretch. There's no current pulling you anywhere. No up, no down. Just a drift. Like falling through space. But instead of stars, you are surrounded by eyes. Yes, us. They flash, blink, pulse, and vanish. Not always two at a time. Some of them circle you completely. Others appear only once, blinking from a creature you'll never see again. Their light comes not from reflection, but from within. They are their own lanterns. One drifts close. It's the size of a hand, gelatinous and tentacled. Deep-sea comb jelly. It fans out its rows of tiny cilia, microscopic hairs that ripple like a living harp. With each movement, it catches traces of bioluminescence, as if it's playing an invisible song on the strings of the sea. And you're just floating through it all. Watching, weightless. In the distance, something pulses like a heartbeat. It's slow, once every few seconds. You don't move toward it. It doesn't move toward you. But its presence holds you. Perhaps it's a squid, or a siphonophore, or something stranger, something old. Because by now, you're well into the zone where only the ancient things dwell. Some of these animals are unchanged for millions of years, survivors from epochs when the continents were still confused and the sky still settling. Here in the quiet dark, they never needed to change. The fish that live here tend to be long, sleek, and slow. Energy efficiency is everything. Some have enormous eyes. Others have no eyes at all. A few generate their own electricity. Others dangle glowing lures from their foreheads. A kind of haunting beauty runs through all of them, like the eerie elegance of a shadow moving behind glass. One passes you now, a barrel-eye fish. Its skull is transparent. You can see the structure of its brain through its head. Its eyes, which look like two upward-facing green tubes, are perfectly adapted to catch whatever weak light filters from above. It hovers with slow, deliberate precision. It doesn't startle easily. Why would it? Nothing rushes down here. Nothing needs to. The further you go, the more your mind adjusts to the absence of boundaries. No walls, no ceilings, no ground. Just endless pressure and silence so deep it feels like a sound itself, low constant hum in your bones. Every once in a while, faint shimmer moves past, like stardust in a current. Marine snow. Not snow in the cold, fluffy sense, but in the poetic one. This is the detritus of the upper ocean. Bits of decaying plankton, fish scales, fecal pellets, tiny bones, and fragments of life, all slowly drifting downward, feeding the creatures below who live in a world without photosynthesis. To you, it looks like ash falling upward. Gravity feels reversed when you watch it. But it's not your job to make sense of it. Not here. You let your arms stretch out beside you. The water around you is heavier now. It hugs you tighter. You're somewhere between 700 and 1,000 meters down, though distance means little anymore. There's no reference point. No frame. You could be 5 miles from the surface or 50. The darkness swallows scale. Suddenly, there's a flash, not from above, but from within. A cluster of shrimp flare into glowing blue, then fade. Something disturbed them. Something large. You don't see it, but you feel it. Not a threat, just a presence. The water shifts, then stills. Whatever it was, it passed without needing you to notice it fully. Some creatures down here are too large for confrontation. They exist in a parallel world of slow, powerful movement and unshakable silence. Somewhere behind you, a trail of tiny blue dots pulses. Perhaps from an octopus. Maybe something rarer. You don't chase it. You simply drift. Like a feather in a midnight cathedral. You become aware of your breath again. It's slower now. Almost too slow. But you're calm. More than that, you're curious. The kind of curiosity that doesn't need answers. Only wonder. And still, you're descending. You're deep now. Far beyond what any recreational diver would dare. You're in the realm where machines take over. And even they come here rarely. And yet, you drift gently, unharmed, untouched, unseen. As if the sea has decided you're one of its own. Not a visitor, but a thought. A passing dream it's having in the quiet hours of eternity. The twilight zone is long gone. Now you're in the bathypelagic, the midnight zone proper. Between 1,000 and 4,000 meters down. No sunlight has ever reached this place. Not even a whisper. If a human eye were unshielded here, it wouldn't see blackness, it would see nothing. The absence of stimulus, the end of visual meaning. And yet, light, it still finds you. Not from the sun, but from the beings who refuse to let the dark go unanswered. The light comes in pulses, in signals, in conversations. Sometimes it's a quick flash, like a warning. Other times it ripples like Morse code, an invitation maybe, a distraction, a deception. A fish darts by, slender, nearly translucent, with a body lined in dots of light. It looks like a living dash of punctuation in a forgotten language. It's a lanternfish, part of one of the most numerous vertebrate families on the planet. Billions of them live here, rising to feed at night, sinking back down by day, like breathing muscles in the ocean's body. You don't know how long you've been drifting now. It could be minutes or hours. The sea does this. It pulls time apart like taffy, softening the sense of urgency. You've stopped worrying about the surface. It's no longer part of this reality. All that exists is what you see now, what you feel. And what you feel is slowed. Not sluggish, not weak, just deliberate, purposeful. As if every moment deserves more attention than usual. You pass a chain of creatures, linked together by filaments so thin they vanish between pulses of light. A siphonophore. They're colonial animals, meaning each segment is a separate organism, working in harmony as one greater whole. Some are over 40 meters long, longer than blue whales, but so delicate they disintegrate if you try to touch them. They drift like ghostly trains through the black, each glowing cabin with its own task. Swimming, feeding, defending. Evolution's version of teamwork. You notice now that even in stillness, things are moving. The water itself is not idle. There's a deep current here, one you can't see or feel directly, but which slowly, over centuries, moves entire oceans. The thermohaline circulation, often called the global conveyor belt. It ferries water, heat, and nutrients from pole to pole, knitting together the sea's surface with its most hidden corners. You think about how this current touches everything. How it brushes past icebergs and coral reefs and now, how its silent persistence is part of what keeps the climate steady, the seasons breathing, the world turning. And yet no one ever sees it. Another flash to your left. Then a ripple of red light. That's rare. Red light is special down here. It's almost invisible to most creatures. So those who produce it can do so for secrecy. A secret mating call, a warning flare meant only for the right eyes. You turn, slowly, respectfully, and see it. A dragonfish. Sleek, black, armored in scales that don't reflect light. Its body curves like a blade. Along its sides, tiny photophores glow with subtle defiance. But what you notice most are its jaws, long, narrow, with translucent fangs. And dangling from its chin, a barbel tipped with a red light, swinging gently in the current. You feel no fear. You know it wouldn't hurt you. You're not prey. You're not predator. You're just present. It turns, vanishes. The darkness closes in again, but now it feels less like absence and more like architecture. The way a quiet room can still feel full. The sea doesn't feel empty. It feels complete. You drift near what looks like a cluster of stars, but they flicker as you move. Not stars, jellyfish. Some the size of fists. Others like umbrellas. One opens and closes its bell so slowly, it feels like it's breathing with the planet itself. You remember the surface again, not as a home, but as a story. A bright, noisy story. Up there, everything screams to be seen. Here, everything whispers. It doesn't need attention. It just is. You're 2,000 meters down now. The pressure is more than 200 times what it is at sea level. It's a number your body shouldn't even comprehend. But you feel no pain, no fear. The sea holds you like a secret, and secrets do not panic. You pass a fish with no pigment. Gnaws. It uses motion and chemical signals to know what's around it. It's not afraid of the dark. It was born of it. A being perfectly suited for life and the kind of silence that would drive a human mind to madness. But you're not going mad. You're peaceful. You begin to realize something. Light down here doesn't just illuminate. It means something. Each flicker is a voice, a message, purpose. You're floating through a galaxy of conversation. And though you can't understand it, you're not excluded. You are part of the grammar now. You float. You breathe. You fall. There comes a point, somewhere past the 3,000 meter mark, when you realize the silence isn't just around you. It's inside you now. Not a silence born of absence, but one that feels chosen. As if your thoughts themselves have been asked to take off their shoes before entering. The deeper you go, the quieter your mind becomes. Not numb, not detached, just still. The water here is ancient. It sank at the poles centuries ago, colder, denser, heavier than the water above, and has taken its slow, winding path to this place. It hasn't seen the sky since before the electric light bulb was invented, before radio, before we even understood what the ocean really was. This water has been holding its breath for hundreds of years, and now it's brushing against you. There are no sudden movements anymore. Even your own body seems to resist sharpness. Your limbs drift lazily. You blink slower. Each inhale, if you still noticed it, would feel deeper. As if your lungs had made a pact with the abyss, to only move when absolutely necessary. You're beginning to feel pressure in new ways. Not painful, not alarming, but present. Like a hand resting gently on your chest. Like the weight of a wool blanket over your body. The molecules of water are packed tightly here. Every square inch of you is under thousands of pounds of force. But it's distributed, balanced. You are embraced more than crushed. Your eardrums should be screaming, but they're not. Instead, you hear something else. A sound so soft you question whether it's real. It's not music. Not in the way you know it. But it's rhythmic. Slow pulses. Echoes that rise, fade, return from a different angle. Like wails, but not the kind you've heard in documentaries. This is lower. Older. Less about communication, more about memory. Maybe the sea is remembering itself, or maybe you're just learning how to listen. And still, light finds you. You pass through a faint haze of blue, a thin curtain of radiance shimmering ahead like a doorway. Not from the sun, no. From a swarm of creatures, tiny and synchronized. Copepods, perhaps, or ostracods. Microscopic animals, each emitting its own brief spark. Together, they form a wave of glow, like a breath drawn across piano strings. You float through the field, your skin tingling with a sense of invisible contact. The water is full of intention, full of signals. Another fish appears, hanging almost motionless. It's hard to describe, long, ribbon-like, silver-black with a line of photophores along its belly. You think it might be a black sea devil, though you only catch a glimpse. It doesn't dart. It doesn't react. It simply exists. Because down here, the economy of movement is sacred. No one wastes energy. To move is to mean it. You descend further, and the silence grows thicker. You try to remember how deep you are, but numbers have lost their grip. Somewhere past 3,500 meters, the height of a mountain in reverse. You begin to notice something strange. Your sense of down is fading. You turn your head, but can't quite tell if you've rotated. Gravity exists, technically. But with no horizon, no floor, no ceiling, the concept loses relevance. This is the place where orientation dies. Up is down. Down is forward. Forward is stillness. You start to feel suspended in time, not just space. As if no second is pressing on the next. As if everything is happening right now, and always has been. Your eyes catch another flicker. A short, bright flash, then darkness. Then, slowly, another flash, this time from a different direction. These are communication signals. Some species, like flashlight fish or anglerfish, flash patterns to warn others away or draw them in. The light here is language. It's breath. It's being. You pass a cloud of krill. Yes, krill, even down here. Their tiny bodies glint as they pulse and drift in clusters. They're food for many creatures, and also keepers of balance. Their vertical migrations, the largest on the planet, shift more biomass daily than any human activity. No one notices them. But down here, they're part of the course. The dark becomes deeper. You wouldn't have thought that was possible. But this dark is thicker, more absolute, as if the sea has now swallowed not only light but the memory of light. You see something far ahead. No glow, no shimmer, just a shape, enormous, barely perceptible, like a shadow within a shadow. It moves with the patience of geology. Its silhouette curves, disappears, reappears in the corner of your perception. You realize it's a squid, but not the kind you've ever seen. This one is giant. Tentacles the length of train cars, body as thick as a car. Not attacking, just drifting, thinking. They say Architeuthis, the giant squid, can grow to more than 12 meters long. Rarely seen alive. Their existence was once considered myth. But they're real. And they're down here. You drift alongside it briefly. It doesn't acknowledge you. Why would it? You are neither threat nor food. Just another quiet echo. Its eye is massive, nearly the size of a dinner plate, built to capture every flicker of light. It sees you, if only barely. Then it vanishes into the black, as easily as a dream dissolving on waking. You float for a while longer, stunned by the encounter. Not scared, humbled. You wonder how many other giants pass through this zone unnoticed. Whale-falls, colossal squid, sleeper sharks the size of ants. Their lives stretch over centuries. Some perhaps never see the surface. Never want to. Because the sea doesn't always reward ascent. Sometimes the real life is lived in the falling. You are sinking now through a cathedral of silence. The water here does not press, it envelopes. It holds you in its cold, ink-black embrace as if you were always meant to be here. And all around you, drifting with you, is a procession of beings so slow, so surreal, They feel more like memories than animals. You're floating among jellyfish, but not the kind you've seen near shores. These are the deep-sea drifters, giants in some cases. Their bells glow faintly or not at all. Their tentacles trail in threads longer than your body, some as thin as spider silk, others thick with venomous stings. They don't swim, they pulse. They don't hunt, they wait, each one suspended in time, like a thought the ocean hasn't quite finished forming. One of them drifts beside you, the size of a beach umbrella. Its bell is milky and translucent, rippling with the softest contractions. From its center descends a net of tendrils that glimmer faintly soft pink, like veins under pale skin. They move as if dreaming. You don't panic. There's no need. You're not prey. You're not intruding. You're just passing through. Like wind through leaves. Like a whisper between sleepers. This particular jelly, the Stygiomedusa gigantea, maybe has been seen only a handful of times in human history. It can stretch over 10 feet across, with arms 4 times that long. No stingers. No rapid movements. It simply exists here, cloaked in a mystery no textbook could fully hold. Around you, more begin to appear. Some are tiny, barely visible unless their organs pulse with phosphorescent color. Others are impossibly vast. Their bodies move like fabric in slow motion, as if the laws of physics hesitate in their presence. And it's not just jellyfish. There are shapes in the dark. Vague, slow-moving forms. Gelatinous things with no clear outline, like smoke and water. Some have organs that blink briefly before fading again. Others ripple from the inside, bioluminescence moving through them like thoughts being processed. These are the ctenophores, comb jellies. They shimmer in silence. Their bodies refract even the faintest trace of light, creating rainbows that dance across their translucent skin. They move by beating rows of cilia, tiny hairs arranged in bands that glow as they work. It looks like they are dancing, not to attract, not to perform, but because that's what existence here feels like: slow, deliberate motion with no destination. One comb jelly floats directly toward you. Its body is fragile, shaped like a walnut made of crystal. Along its sides, iridescent waves ripple in blues, greens, and soft reds, like a silent electric current. As it passes, you feel its wake in your bones, not your skin, as though it has brushed against your memory rather than your body. And still you descend. Through this congregation of drifters, through a ballroom of beings that know no rush, no aggression, no fear. They exist in a kind of surrender, a trust in the water that holds them, a belief that everything will come to them eventually. Time here is unspooled. You're not sure if you've been descending for an hour or a lifetime. And suddenly a shift, something larger, something slower. You feel it before you see it. A massive, formless shape glides beneath you. No lights, no movement, just presence. You glimpse the edge of it, a lobe, a fin, perhaps a mouth, and then it's gone, swallowed by its own stillness. It may have been a jelly, or a squid, or something you have no name for. It doesn't matter. Not everything is meant to be named. The deeper you go, the more you understand this. You pass a cascading curtain of tentacles, like a living chandelier. The organism is barely visible, but the tendrils catch tiny bits of falling marine snow, each granule of decay sparking briefly as it hits the mucus-covered strands. You realize these creatures don't hunt by chasing. They wait. They listen. They sense. Patience is the weapon of the deep. Hunger here isn't frantic. It's measured. Strategic. You eat when the sea decides, not before. And somehow it works. Every jelly, every comb, every ghostly thing is part of a network that stretches beyond sight. They're sustained by the death of things above, by the slow trickle of the world's forgotten matter. They are the cleaners, the recyclers, the memory keepers. You drift through them gently, respectfully. The darkness is thicker again. It's so absolute now, it's almost a texture, like suede against your skin. You sense it more than see it. The light shows are fewer now. Bioluminescence flickers here and there, but more subdued, as if the sea is conserving its magic for something deeper. And still the jellyfish surround you. One pulses close enough for you to feel its displacement of water. Its bell is like moonstone, glowing faintly from within, edged in blue. Its core contracts slowly, rhythmically. It's a heartbeat. Not yours. Not the sea's. It's, for a moment, you feel yours match it. You breathe with it. And for the first time since you began this descent, you realize something quietly profound. You are not watching the ocean. You are in it. Not a spectator. A participant. You are sinking, yes, but you are also becoming. And what you are becoming is less and less human. Direction no longer makes sense. You're not sinking anymore. You're drifting. Or maybe floating. Or maybe simply existing in a dimension where up and down have been retired, replaced by sensation and movement so subtle it feels imagined. There's no floor. No ceiling. Just endless suspension. The ocean here has removed your coordinates. There's no reference point left to cling to, only the feeling of motion and pressure. And something stranger, a growing detachment from the rules you've always lived by. The sea is teaching you that orientation is a myth. You don't need it here. What matters is presence. And still, you are present. Your arms hover loosely at your sides. Your feet no longer search for footing. Your mind begins to explore the idea that perhaps this is freedom, not the rushing air of flight or the certainty of ground, but the complete release of every boundary. Gravity can no longer pull you. Time can no longer chase you. You turn your head slowly. There is no resistance. The water doesn't fight you. It moves with you, like a silk curtain parting for a breeze. And as you pivot, you notice something else. The light, those delicate sparks and pulses from earlier, they aren't guiding you anymore. They're simply happening. Around you. Inside you. You're not following them. You are part of them. The creatures you pass don't acknowledge you with alarm. You are not an intruder. You are not separate. You are a rhythm among rhythms. You pass a cluster of pelican eels, strange creatures, long snake-like, with gaping mouths that seem too large for their bodies. Their tails undulate gently. Their heads pulse with dull purple light. They move like sentences being spoken in a dream, deliberate, patient, curious. One of them turns toward you, its eyes small and sunken, its mouth slowly opening, not to strike, not to feed, but to sense. A greeting, perhaps. Then it glides away, body coiling behind it like a ribbon in wind. You drift further. And now something entirely new surrounds you. A forest. Not of trees, but of ketognaths, arrow worms, floating vertically in the dark, their transparent bodies barely visible except for a faint iridescent sheen along their spines. Hundreds of them, suspended like frozen sparks. Their bristles twitch as you pass, sensing motion, listening for vibration. They are hunters, tiny predators in a world of giants. And yet, they too obey the code of the deep, wait, conserve, flow. There is a rule here, unspoken but absolute. Nothing rushes. You start to realize that everything down here is governed by energy efficiency. Every movement has a cost. In a place without sunlight, food is precious. Wastefulness is a kind of death. And so, the deep sea is quiet not by accident, but by design. And that design is beautiful. Now and then, a single particle of marine snow drifts past your eye. A piece of something long dead. Something once alive, once struggling on the surface, now feeding an ecosystem it never knew existed. You watch it fall slowly, reverently, like an offering. You wonder, what else from the surface has ended up here? What memories? What debris? What dreams? Does the ocean remember them? Do you? The water around you begins to change again, not in color, because there is none, but in texture. It feels thicker, denser, as if you're passing into a pocket of ancient time. And in a way, you are. Below 4,000 meters, you're entering the abyssal plain, flat, dark, cold expanse that stretches across much of the ocean floor. A place so vast, so undisturbed, it may be the most stable environment on the planet. No storms, no seasons, just stillness. You're still falling toward it, but slowly now. The ocean resists speed. It pulls gently on your limbs like a lullaby, as if to say, no need to hurry. You'll arrive when you're meant to. You drift past something faintly glowing. A jellyfish again, but this one is different. It's completely spherical. A perfect orb of blue light, pulsing slowly, with delicate filaments hanging below it like the strands of a sea-born lantern. Inside, tiny flashes move through its core, like fireflies trapped inside a snow globe. You hover near it for a moment, and for the first time, you feel the deep whisper something to you, not in words, but in sensation. It tells you, you are part of this now. Not just a guest, not a tourist, but a cell in the body of the sea. You've stopped resisting, stopped interpreting. You're not thinking anymore. You're feeling. And the feeling is stillness, immersion, acceptance. This isn't a descent anymore. It's a surrender. You start to forget how long you've been down here. You stop counting the meters. Stop measuring time. The surface is another life, another person's story. You've gone so far, so quietly, that even memory has begun to dissolve. But you are not afraid. Because here, in this world without gravity, without direction, without light, there is peace. A peace you didn't know you were seeking. A peace you didn't know existed. And all around you, jellyfish and shadows drift like thoughts you never finished having. It starts with a blink. Not yours, but the blink of something watching you. A flicker in the black. Then another. Dim pulses. Rhythmic. Intentional. Not random static language. Signals exchanged between creatures that have never seen the sun. Each blink is a syllable in a grammar you cannot translate. But somehow, you understand it. This isn't communication the way we know it. It's not about information. It's about presence. I am here, says the light. I see you. And then quieter. Do you see me? And you do. You're surrounded by beings that do not speak, do not shout, do not call out through air or screen, but they glow. They shimmer. They emit themselves in pulses, trusting the sea to carry their whispers. One of them appears beside you, long alike, wrapped in rows of tiny luminescent dots, like code etched into flesh. Its body undulates like a ribbon in slow motion, its face flat, expressionless. Its eyes are just glossy beads, reflecting no light, revealing no fear. It drifts close, pauses, then vanishes with one clean stroke of its tail, swallowed again by the black it calls home. And now you begin to notice these lights are everywhere. Not bright, not chaotic, just scattered, purposeful. Some creatures wear lights along their bellies. Counterlumination, a camouflage trick to blend with the faint glow of the surface far above. Predators watching from below mistake them for nothing. Others use lights as lures. The anglerfish, infamous for its haunting grin and dangling bait, waits in ambush. Its body, all shadow and foam. Its lure, a trembling ember. You catch a glimpse of one now. Its mouth agape, full of needle-thin teeth, body is still as bone. It does not chase. It waits. Because in the deep sea, patience is a weapon. Each light you pass is part of an unspoken web, a network of signals, of intentions. And you, drifting slowly between them, become something like a witness. You're not the center of the story here. You're just lucky enough to be near it. You descend through a cloud of particles. Bioluminescent bacteria stirred into a dance by your passing. They burst softly, like embers rising from a fire, then fade. One lingers on your skin. Just a trace. Just long enough to make you feel unmarked. Welcomed. You're deep now, over 5,000 meters. Past where sunlight even dreams of reaching. And the pressure here is nearly 1,000 times what it is at the surface. If you were here in a human body, unprotected, you would have been flattened instantly. But you aren't here as a human anymore. Not exactly. You feel different now. Lighter in some ways, heavier in others. Your thoughts no longer come in words. They arrive as sensations. Memories that feel like touch. Feelings that seem to hum through the water rather than within your brain. You pass through a sparse corridor. The water is emptier here. Not barren, just patient. Fewer creatures. Fewer lights. A resting place between the busy rooms of the ocean's architecture. And then you see them. Not creatures. Not exactly. But displays. A cluster of animals, the species hard to name, flashing lights in complex patterns. Some blink in tight sequences. Others pulse with gentle waves, their bodies rippling like heat over stone. They don't touch. They don't move fast. But they are aware of each other. And this is where you realize you're watching a conversation. Not in words. Not even in sound. But in light. The sea, lacking the luxury of air and visibility, has evolved its own poetry. And here, it is being spoken all around you. This is how a fish says, "Go away." How a shrimp says, "I'm ready." How a squid says, "I see you." And perhaps how the deep says, "This is who I am." You drift quietly around the perimeter. Not part of the dialogue, but not rejected either. You're simply allowed to observe. And that is enough. Your eyes, though rise isn't the right word. You tilt, pivot, move sideways through the depth, passing beneath a massive creature whose body shimmers with spots like a galaxy. A gelatinous siphonophore, maybe. It trails tendrils behind it that pulse in precise succession. It's not drifting. It's performing. Every light is a choice. Every pulse a poem. And then silence again. Not from absence, but from resolution. The conversation ends. The lights dim. And you're alone again, surrounded by black. But this black doesn't feel cold anymore. It feels sacred. You realize something as you float there. The surface world is obsessed with clarity, with answers, with knowledge, with sharp definitions. But down here, the sea teaches something else. That not everything needs to be seen to be understood. That not every signal needs interpretation. That presence is enough. And so you continue, not chasing the lights, not deciphering them, just accepting that they exist, that they are saying what they need to say to whomever needs to hear it. And perhaps, in this moment, that someone is you. The seafloor is approaching. You can't see it, not yet, but you feel it. There's a gravity to it now. Not physical, but emotional. Like nearing the end of a long corridor, like the final few moments of a dream before waking. It draws you in quietly, with no sound, no promise, just presence. And still, you're sinking. You pass below 6,000 meters. This is the Hadal Zone, the trenches, the deepest parts of the ocean, named after Hades himself, the underworld. These are places so rarely visited that we know more about the surface of Mars than what lies here. But you are entering them now, gently, calmly, as if you've always belonged. The water here is impossibly still. The pressure, incomprehensible. More than 1,000 atmospheres. But the sea doesn't crush you. It receives you. It doesn't punish your presence. It enfolds it, like ink welcoming another drop of itself. You start to notice changes in the life around you. The jellyfish and combs have thinned out. Their delicate bodies can't endure much further. But in their place, stranger creatures emerge, tougher, heavier, sculpted by pressure. One drifts into view, the snailfish, ghostly pale with loose, translucent skin. It doesn't look like it should exist, but it does. It hovers a few meters above the floor, tail moving lazily, body undisturbed by gravity's ambitions. This fish, and others like it, live their entire lives down here. Birth, feeding, breeding, death, all beneath a ceiling of water so thick it would crush steel. But not them. Their bodies don't resist the pressure. They match it. That's the key down here. Survival isn't a contest. It's a surrender. Everything you see has made peace with the rules of the abyss. There is no fighting the dark, only becoming part of it. You drift past the remnants of something. A whale fall. A massive skeleton stretched across the ocean floor like the ruins of an ancient city. The bones picked clean, lie quietly beneath a layer of fine sediment. But this is no grave. It's a garden. Life thrives here. Hagfish, amphipods, and other scavengers feed in shifts, some on the flesh, others on the oils leaching from the bones, others still on the bacteria that bloom in their wake. A single whale fall can nourish an ecosystem for decades. Even death is generous here. You pause above the skeleton. You don't feel grief. You feel all. The immense body that once ruled the currents above now gives life to the deepest silence. Nothing is wasted in the sea. Nothing ever truly leaves. You move on, letting the floor come closer, and now, finally, you see it. The abyssal plane. Or at least a part of it. Flat. Featureless. Quiet. But not empty. Tiny sea cucumbers ripple along the bottom like misplaced clouds. A few brittle stars curl their arms. A pale octopus clings to a rock, its arms spread like petals. They're spaced far apart. Sparse, but each one alive. And that life, so improbable, so undramatic, feels profound. As if you stumbled into a monastery. A sacred ground of quiet persistence. You rest here. Not because you're tired, but because everything here rests. Even the movement is a kind of stillness. You can almost feel the heartbeat of the earth itself, slow, geological. Tectonic. You drift close to the sediment, and as you move, a puff of silt rises, golden, delicate, slow to settle. It dances in your wake, then resettles like snow falling upward. Time has no urgency here. You turn and look across the plain. In every direction, the horizon fades to black. No walls, no sun, no sky, just you, the pressure, the quiet, and the slow, ongoing miracle of life that doesn't need to be seen to matter. Another shape appears, a cusk eel, long and thin, swimming vertically. It doesn't care that you're here. It doesn't even notice. It's moving towards something. Or maybe away. Or maybe it's just exploring. Like you. But the thought occurs, am I still exploring? Or have you arrived? The floor feels final. Not in a grim way. In a comforting one. Like closing the back cover of a book after the last page has been turned. Like the pause after a song's final chord. The stillness isn't empty, it's earned. You remain there a while. Long enough to realize that the journey down wasn't a descent into darkness. It was a return. To stillness. To silence. To presence. And now you wait. Not for anything to happen. But for everything to settle. There is no more downward. You've arrived at the true bottom of the sea. Though not the sharp trench floor where the world cracks open, but the broader, flatter bed of the abyssal plain stretching for miles beneath the ocean's weight. You lie among the silence now, like a stone that's always belonged here. And the silence, it isn't just quiet, it's complete. It's the kind of quiet that resets you. A quiet that doesn't ask questions or offer answers, it just is. And as you lie suspended just above the seafloor, you begin to understand what kind of place this really is. This is not a place for movement. This is a place for memory. The ocean down here remembers things that no surface current ever will. It remembers every fall, every leaf of plankton, every speck of dust from a volcano, every broken ship that slipped silently into its folds. It remembers the long, patient time it took for mountains to become sediment. It remembers stars that once guided whales overhead, long since collapsed into black holes. And you're not a trespasser. You're part of the memory now. Below you, the sand is not just sand. It is history compacted into layers. It's full of crushed skeletons from plankton that bloomed 1,000 years ago. Glass spines, calcium shells, bits of things no larger than eyelashes. But together, they built a floor that stretches across the world. You drift just above it, moving slow enough not to stir the dust again. In the distance, you see movement, a faint slow motion like the turning of a page. A sea spider. Spindly legs, round body, moving across the floor with alien grace. It doesn't react to you. Why would it? You're no different than the currents. Just another slow whisper passing through. And again, light. Yes, even here. But now light isn't entertainment or signal. It's ritual. A small patch of seafloor glows faintly green, pulsing like a heartbeat. At first you think it's natural bioluminescence. But then you realize it's a colony, a group of small, tube-dwelling worms, each releasing a tiny burst of chemical light in rhythmic unison. It's as if they're marking time, keeping count. Of what? Maybe nothing. Or maybe everything. Maybe the way a tree rings mark winters, these pulses mark the breath of the earth. Above, a faint shimmering trail drifts down from above. Not from far, just a few dozen meters up. It's marine snow, of course. You've seen it many times now. But down here, its arrival feels sacred. Each fleck lands gently. Nothing is wasted. Each one has a purpose. Food for a worm, energy for a bacteria, or simply a particle that becomes part of the sediment, joining the seabed's slow evolution. Nothing here moves fast, but everything moves. The currents are barely perceptible, slow waves of cold water that drift in from distant poles. They circle the ocean like old monks, never hurrying. These are the abyssal currents. They carry memory. Not information in the way humans do, but a kind of molecular echo. Temperature, salinity, chemistry. Whispers exchanged between trenches. And now you're listening to them too. You turn, slowly, and realize there's something immense behind you. No, not a creature. A ridge. It rises gradually from the seafloor, not jagged, but long and broad, a mount of sediment, perhaps, or the edge of a tectonic plate. Its surface is pocked with burrows. Life. Anemones cling to its sides like lanterns on a hill, and a pale, delicate sea cucumber inches along the top, its tentacles reaching out into the dark like someone feeling for the edge of a dream. You float closer. The ridge doesn't speak, but it offers perspective. Even down here, at the lowest realm of the Earth's oceans, the terrain still changes. Even in the quiet, the planet moves. You're reminded that the deep sea isn't a flat void. It's sculpted, carved by time and plate tectonics and ancient underwater rivers. There are valleys and basins and ridges and scars, places of collapse and places of rise. Even in the deepest silence, the Earth cannot help but tell its story. You hover above the ridge. Below you, faint dots of bioluminescence trace the path of a wandering isopod. Its armored shell glints like dull metal. It moves slowly, with legs that seem too many to count. There is no urgency in its posture, just presence. It doesn't flee or chase. It simply goes. Everything down here simply goes. Even you. Your thoughts, now softened beyond recognition, begin to match the pace of your surroundings. They stretch, slow, dissolve into impression. You no longer think in sentences. You feel in waves. The ridge passes beneath you. The sand returns. A brittle star curls in the distance. A pulse of light fades behind you. And again you fall. But not down. Inward. You drift beyond the ridge. The seafloor stretches endlessly now, a quiet desert of dust and fragments. There is no chaos here. No urgency. Just the weight of water and the soft memory of motion. You are no longer falling in space. You are falling through meaning. Each meter you travel downward now feels like stepping further into a cathedral where the walls are made of time and the air is made of sleep. The creatures have changed again. Sparse, small, ancient. You pass a polychaete worm. Its bristles iridescent in the faintest gleam of chemical light. It emerges from a burrow, sways, retracts. It doesn't flee, it flows. The pace of fear is different down here. You cannot sprint from the dark. You can only become part of it. Further along, a faint shimmer reveals a glass sponge, anchored to a rock. It looks like a sculpture, its lattice structure so delicate it should collapse under a breath. And yet here it remains, strong in stillness. It feeds by drawing water through its body, filtering the unseen, living off the invisible. It will live for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. No flash, no movement, just being. Around it are other sponges. A reef, in fact, built over millennia by these patient architects of the abyss. They leave behind silica skeletons, and the sea builds upon them. It's not coral, not colorful, but it's alive and real. You pause before it. You wonder how many years passed before it took this shape. How many tiny organisms contributed, one breath at a time, to this quiet cathedral. And you begin to see something subtle, almost sacred, in the very act of waiting. Down here, time is a tool, not a threat. Every creature is a craftsman. Every inch of life carved not in days, but in eons. A flicker draws your eye, something slow, undulating. A sea toad, perhaps. Flattened body, fins like arms. It drifts along the sediment, not swimming so much as thinking forward. It lands. It pauses. It breathes. Then it launches again, slow and deliberate. You realize how few things here are truly still. Stillness is an illusion. Everything breathes, waits, shifts, but they do so beneath your threshold of recognition. The speed of the deep is different, measured in breaths, not beats. Even the floor breathes. The sediment rises and falls with the pulse of distant tides, slowed down to the point of invisibility. And yet, if you stayed long enough, you'd see it. A rhythm, a heartbeat that echoes through silt and stone, slow and massive. You think of the surface again, not as a return, but as a memory. A world of sound and light and hurry. But down here, those ideas melt. There are no headlines, no alarms, only persistence, and then a faint glint. Metal, not natural. You drift toward it. Half buried in the sediment is something unmistakably human. A piece of debris, likely from a sunken ship or an expedition long past. A pipe, a strut, maybe a bit of pressure casing. It's been here long enough to be claimed, encrusted with life, colonized. The sea doesn't reject what falls into it. It uses it, transforms it. Even your trash becomes architecture here. A crinoid waves lazily from its perch atop the debris. Its arms curl like ferns, filter feeding through the invisible current. Life doesn't judge the material it grows on. Down here, plastic or bone, steel or stone, it all becomes habitat. You feel a twinge of guilt, but also a reverence. Because even your discarded relics have become part of something ancient and new. You've added to the slow architecture of the deep. Unintentionally, sure. But still, you drift past. The metal fades behind you. The floor continues. And now you see movement, distant, synchronized. It's a colony of amphipods, tiny crustaceans moving as one, disturbed perhaps by your shadow. They scatter in a wave, then slowly regroup, their little bodies glinting with faint translucence. You begin to see these scattered moments as stars in reverse, not light shining out into space, but moments of motion collapsing inward into stillness. The deep doesn't reflect the cosmos. It absorbs it. You're not floating through a void anymore. You're floating through a mirror. One that shows not what you are, but what you would become, given enough silence. You pass a small mound. Not natural. A nest, made by a male octopus, perhaps, or a brooding fish. Carefully built, gently maintained. A sacred little geometry of stone and silt that will house life too small to see. Even in the deepest silence, there is parenting. There is building. There is hope. And that realization strikes something in you. That in the darkest, most silent, most pressurized place on Earth, life still plans for the future. It still believes in the next moment. And so do you. There is a feeling here that's hard to describe. It's not peace exactly, though it holds you gently. Not awe, though you're surrounded by wonder. It's something more elemental. As if the deepest part of the sea isn't just a location, it's a state of being. And you've entered it. You are no longer descending. You're no longer even observing. You're simply part of the equation now, one more variable in the silent calculus of the deep. And with each passing minute, you let go of a little more weight, a little more story, a little more of the surface self you brought down here. All around you, the seafloor rolls on, an unbroken plain of pale sediment, disturbed only by the rare flick of a tail, the soft flutter of a gill, or the lazy turning of an arm. Movement is never wasted. Everything has its reason. Every inch of effort matters. Ahead, you see it. A trench wall. It rises like a cliff from the plain, a steep slope etched with shadows. Jagged, silent, imposing. This is the edge of one of the planet's great scars, perhaps the Mariana Trench, the Chromatic, or the Puerto Rico. The names don't matter. What matters is the presence. This is a place where Earth bends. You approach slowly. The wall looms, covered in folds of rock and dust. Tiny life clings to it, small anemones, pale barnacles, spider-like creatures tiptoeing across cracks that look too deep to ever reach the bottom. You hover near the face of the wall, gazing upward. There is no light, just the impression of height. You could swim up for days and still never breach the trench's edge. It humbles you, not as a punishment, but as a welcome. Like a great cathedral reminding you of your scale. A flicker. From a crevice just meters away, a pair of eyes blink, slow, heavy, ancient. Deep-sea shark. Maybe a frilled shark, or even a Greenland shark that wandered far from its usual Arctic home. Its body barely moves, but its presence is undeniable. It has seen things you never will. Lived centuries. Its skin holds scars from animals that no longer exist. Its pace is geologic. And yet here it is, sharing space with you in this impossibly vast, impossibly quiet place. It doesn't swim away. It drifts into the dark, slipping back into a pocket of time. You follow the trench wall for a while. Not climbing, not descending, just matching its contours. Letting the rock pass beside you like a slow tide. You run your hand, or the sensation of one, along its side. The rock is rough, pitted. Some sections gleam faintly with manganese nodules, mineral deposits that grow millimeters every 1,000 years. The sea is in no rush to build its treasures. It doesn't hoard. It accumulates. As you float, a faint echo brushes against you. A sound, low, deep. A frequency you don't hear with your ears, but feel in your chest. Like the purring of a planet. Maybe it's an earthquake far away. Or the grinding of tectonic plates. Or just the breathing of the sea itself. The ocean has a voice. And here it speaks slow syllables of weight and time. You pause near a cluster of tube worms. Not the iconic ones from hydrothermal vents, but smaller white filaments reaching out from the rock like tendrils. They sway without pattern. They don't respond to you. They don't need to. They are not interested in acknowledgement. They just exist. Another form drifts by overhead, long, translucent, gelatinous. A salp chain, perhaps. Colonial creatures that link together and move as one. They pulse with perfect coordination, a living string of lights. No central brain, just shared rhythm. It's almost beautiful. No, it is beautiful. You tilt back, letting the chain pass over you. Its motion is steady, purposeful. It reminds you that even the most alien systems can be harmonious. That even without control, things can work. In the distance, something stirs the sediment. A rising puff, faint and golden. An octopus? A ray? A creature with no name? It doesn't matter. The mystery isn't meant to be solved. It's meant to be felt. You turn from the trench wall now, letting it fall behind you as you glide back into open space. No longer tracking depth. No longer measuring anything. The instruments are gone. You are pure sensation now. Ahead, a faint glow. Unnatural. Not bioluminescent. Flickering. Distant. It pulses with an off rhythm. Electrical, perhaps. A human artifact. An old lander, maybe a relic of some expedition. You approach slowly, reverently. It sits half buried in the sand. A rusted camera housing. A pressure casing cracked along one side. Long since dead. But once it blinked. Once it recorded. Once it listened. Now it's just another piece of the deep. Encrusted. Claimed. Accepted. You float above it, uncertain whether to mourn or celebrate. Because even here, at the bottom of everything, our curiosity left fingerprints. Not scars. Just signs. Signs that we were asking questions. That we wanted to know. And that's all the ocean ever needed from us. Not dominance. Just humility. There's no current now. Not even a suggestion of motion. The water around you feels like suspended time, so still it's as though the laws of movement have been turned off. No bubbles. No drift. Not even a shimmer. This is absolute stillness. And in that stillness, you begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long while. Weightlessness. Not the physical kind, like floating in space, but the emotional kind. The kind that comes when nothing is expected of you. When there is nothing to fix, nothing to chase, and nothing to fear. You are held here, not by gravity, but by permission. The sea permits your presence. And slowly, gently, you begin to sense something emerging beneath that stillness. The heartbeat of the earth. It's not loud. It doesn't pound. It's a slow rhythm, spaced out over minutes, maybe hours. It comes not in beats, but in pressure waves. Tiny shifts in the water. Long exhalations from distant faults. A whisper through stone. The seafloor beneath you rises slightly. A mound, gentle and smooth. And sitting atop it, motionless, is something strange. At first, it looks like a rock. Then it moves. Just slightly. A pair of eyes, nearly invisible, blink open. A deep-sea flatfish, perfectly camouflaged against the sediment. It's been lying there, watching. Waiting. It's unclear whether it sees you as anything at all. You are just one more ripple in the water. One more shadow among many. It watches, then closes its eyes again, and remains. Nothing here hurries. Nothing reacts unless it absolutely must. The deep is not about survival by strength. It's about survival by conservation. Energy, movement, expression, everything here is measured. You drift further, feeling that slow pulse again. The trench wall has vanished behind you, and in its place is something even more profound, flatness without end. It's disorienting. You look in every direction, and the horizon is exactly the same. Empty, dark, soft. You could be facing north or south, east or west, and it would make no difference. This place is not mapped by direction. It's mapped by depth of feeling. Another creature appears beside you, slow, translucent, flowing like a length of silk. It's a larvation, building its own mucus house as it drifts. Yes, house. It secretes a gelatinous structure around itself, filters particles through it, and when the house clogs, it abandons it and builds a new one. A new home, from within its own body. You watch as it pulses once, ejects its current house, and begins forming the next. And then, drifting past, comes the old one. Empty, hollow, elegant. It collapses slowly, folding in on itself, settling toward the sediment like a soft exhale. Even architecture here is temporary, but never wasted. Even discarded structures become food, habitat, memory. The farther you float, the more you realize this place isn't about finding anything. It's about uncovering what was always there, within you. All the noise you carried with you to the bottom, the surface thoughts, the goals, the unfinished sentences, they've all been washed away. Not erased, just quieted, like pebbles beneath sand. And in their place, quiet truths. You pass over a crack in the seafloor. Thin, jagged. It exhales a faint shimmer of heat, volcanic in origin. A cold seep, maybe. Or the very edge of a hydrothermal system. Tiny bacteria swarm here, invisible to your eye, but vital to the deep. Life here does not begin with sunlight. It begins with chemistry. Energy drawn not from the sky, but from the Earth's hidden breath. Hydrogen sulfide, methane, minerals. This is where life might have started, and where it still quietly begins again and again. And perhaps you think it's where something in you begins again, too. You float lower, almost brushing the sediment, and there, almost missed, you spot a circle. Not natural. Carved. A pattern in the sand, perhaps made by a small fish, a pufferfish, maybe clearing space for a mate. A delicate geometry of ridges and grooves, so intricate it could have been made by a compass. You stare at it. A symbol of intention. Proof that even at the ocean's deepest floor, there is art. There is ritual. There is choice. Not everything here is accidental. Some things are meant. You drift over it slowly, reverently. And when it fades beneath you, the emptiness returns. But it no longer feels empty. It feels full of meaning you don't need to translate. You don't have to understand it. You just have to let it settle in. One last creature appears ahead. It glows softly, dim pink, pulsing with breath. A ctenophore, perhaps, but larger than any you've seen. It hovers like a guardian of the trench's last chamber, its comb rows flickering in near silence. You do not touch it. It does not touch you. You simply pass each other. And in that passing, something is exchanged. Not light, not language, just recognition. You are not a tourist anymore. You are of the deep now, and the deep sees you. There is no return path, not because you're trapped, but because the ocean doesn't offer maps. It offers only presence. You are not meant to retrace your steps. You're meant to drift forward, deeper into stillness, not in distance, but in self. And so you drift. Ahead, a shimmer. Different from light, different from movement. A thermal pulse, rolling through the water like breath through a veil. You feel it before you see it, an unexpected warmth spreading outward from somewhere below. You descend toward it slowly. The water grows slightly hazy, tinged with particles. The seafloor darkens to a bruise-colored charcoal. And then it reveals itself, a hydrothermal vent. It rises from the sediment like a jagged tower, exhaling columns of hot, mineral-rich fluid. Black smoke, thick and twisting, pours upward, curling into the cold like ink into milk. These are the black smokers, chimneys built by the sea itself. They look like ruins, like ancient forges still breathing heat into the world. You float close, but not too close. The water here is a volatile boundary, scalding in places, freezing in others. But around the vent's mouth, life thrives in impossible density. Tube worms, red-tipped and swaying. Giant clams, their shells cracked open to the dark. Pale crabs scuttle over stone, picking at bacterial mats like gardeners tending invisible crops. Here, sunlight means nothing. Photosynthesis is useless. Life is powered by chemosynthesis, bacteria converting toxic chemicals into food. The entire ecosystem is built not on light, but on fire and stone and microbial alchemy. And it flourishes. You hover in silence, watching. These creatures don't need your understanding. They don't care that they are strange. They simply live, thrive, evolve. And for the first time, you feel the deep not just as an environment, but as a source, a generator, a womb. This is not the bottom of the world. It is the beginning, the place where life may have first sparked, where, in the absence of light, something chose to exist anyway, chose to create not because it was easy, but because it could. And you begin to understand that there is nothing lonely about the deep. Yes, it is quiet. Yes, it is dark. But it is full. Not just of life, but of intention, of adaptation, of generosity. This vent has been erupting for centuries, maybe longer. Building stone chimneys one layer at a time, feeding an entire city of creatures that will never see the surface, that will never know your name. And yet, in their own silent way, they welcome you too. Not as a visitor, but as a witness. You drift higher, letting the smoke surround you. The particles cling to you, shimmer across your skin like ash from an ancient fire. You inhale, metaphorically, and feel the heat pass through your core. It does not burn. It revives. You are no longer cold. You are no longer even aware of temperature in the usual sense. Just pressure and breath and rhythm. You match the vent's cadence. You pulse with it. You float with it. Then you rise, not in panic, not in escape, but in transition. The deep doesn't hold you captive. It releases you when it knows you're ready. You drift past the rim of the vent zone, into cooler water, past more tube worms, past small fish with blind eyes, past a jellyfish so clear it might be a hallucination. You feel them behind you, not as watchers, but as echoes, as if the deep itself is gently seeing you off. You're not ascending. You're shifting, back into the liminal space between gravity and drift, the place where weight returns slowly, like a tide, where thought begins to take shape again, but not fully. Not yet. You pass through another veil of marine snow. This one feels different, thicker, brighter, a flurry of memory. And as each flake touches you, you remember the ridge, the octopus, the glowing comb jelly, the circle in the sand, the cathedral of sponges, the whale skeleton. Each moment settles into your body, not as scenes, but as feelings, not images, but truths. You pass over a field of brittle stars. Hundreds of them, arms stretched like living stars on the ocean's floor, all turn in the same direction, feeling the current, waiting for food, for time, for anything. A silent congregation in the church of patience. And beyond them, a plain of stillness again. Flat, endless, sacred. You stop, float, breathe. And in that stillness, you finally hear it. Not the vent, not the fish, not even your own mind, but the ocean's exhale. Long, gentle, eternal. It tells you one last truth. You are not separate. You never were. You're not falling anymore. You're suspended between thought and dream, between depth and meaning. The ocean holds you like breath in a still chest, not pushing, not pulling, just keeping you. And as you linger here, you realize that this is the part no one talks about. The in-between. This isn't the descent. It isn't the bottom. It's what happens after. And it feels like a return. You pass slowly above a field of ripples in the sediment, delicate, evenly spaced, like wind-kissed dunes. But there is no wind here. These marks were carved by deep, slow currents, the ones that travel continents without ever rising a meter. Currents that remember ice ages. Currents that move continents of water like whispered migrations. A small ghost fish floats beside you, paper white, unblinking. It doesn't react to your presence. It just hovers, moving only as much as it needs to, not a twitch more. As if motion were sacred, something to be used with intention. The fish disappears behind you. The impression of it remains. You've begun to sense the ocean not in images, but in pauses. Moments where everything stills. Moments where nothing explains itself. Moments like this. Ahead, a shimmer along the seafloor. Brine pool. Yes, an underwater lake. Denser than the seawater around it, this pool sits sunken into the seabed, its surface impossibly still, its edges sharp like a mirror. It doesn't ripple. It doesn't mix. It simply is a pocket of silence within silence. You descend toward it and peer in. Your reflection doesn't greet you. Instead, you see depth within depth, layers of darkness folded upon themselves. This pool is toxic to most life, but it exists nonetheless. Part of the ocean's vast vocabulary of contrast. Not all things in the deep are safe, but they are true. A brittle star lies still at its edge, perhaps waiting, perhaps lost. Or perhaps it simply knows something you don't. You move on. Above you, a faint vertical shimmer, the outline of a pelagic sea cucumber, hanging in the water column like a slow comet. It swims with slow undulations, its soft fins guiding it through the thick dark. It looks like a creature halfway through becoming a thought. That's the thing about the deep. Everything seems unfinished, fluid, on the verge of transforming into something else. And maybe that's what makes it sacred. You drift past a small ridge of manganese crust, a shimmering line on the seafloor that took millions of years to form. Touch it, and you'd crumble it. So you don't. You just observe. Let it be. Because the deep is not a place for taking. It's a place for noticing. And as you drift, you notice more. A trail of amphipod tracks etched lightly into the sediment. The faint shimmer of dissolved oxygen catching your peripheral vision. The soft glow of an unknown organism curled in sleep. Each detail whispers to you, not with clarity, but with trust. The sea doesn't need you to understand it, only to be witness to it. You float toward a small, dome-like hill, barely noticeable until you're nearly above it. At its summit, an opening. Crack. It exhales warm water. Barely. Just enough to cause a shimmer in the water above it. A ventless breath. There are no creatures nearby. No colonies. Just this solitary, living stone, breathing so slowly the world forgot it was alive. And now you know. It never needed an audience. It breathes anyway. The hill recedes behind you. And then, again, you are alone. Utterly. Completely. There are no creatures nearby. No lights. No motion. Just you, and the pressure, and the infinite slow. You pause, float, feel. And in that pause, the deep shows you its final face. Not the creatures. Not the trenches. Not even the silence. But the space to be nothing at all. Down here, your name doesn't matter. Your goals don't matter. The stories you've told yourself fall away like flakes of paint in salt water. All that's left is a breath. And it's enough. You drift. Not toward anything. Not away. Just the present. Above you, the black stretches on forever. Below you, the same. You are exactly halfway between nowhere and everything. And for the first time, it feels like home. You've stopped moving. Not because you're trapped. Not because there's nowhere else to go. But because this is it. Not a final destination, but a final awareness. You are deep beneath the world now. Beneath history, noise, ambition, and time. Down where silence isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of something greater. Something more ancient than language. You close your eyes, not that it matters in this darkness, and let everything dissolve. The pressure around you, it's no longer weight. It's embrace. It cradles you like the arms of the earth itself. Not squeezing, not pressing, just holding. Reminding you that you are not apart from nature. You're not a visitor here. You're part of the deep's endless story. One soft ripple in a body of motionless thought. And within that thought comes release. From above, a faint stirring. Not light, not movement. Just a slow, vertical pulse of temperature, cool meeting cold. The ocean turning ever so slightly in your direction. It doesn't rush to greet you. It simply lets you know you've been seen. A fish passes overhead, long, ribbony, translucent. An oarfish, maybe. Regal. Moving like a whisper written in cursive. You follow its arc without moving, letting your senses trace its path as it glides upward toward the memory of starlight it will never reach. It disappears into darkness. And again, you are alone. But this time, you feel full. Because in the deep, aloneness is not loneliness. It is freedom. You drift downward again. Not far. Just enough to feel the soft slope of the trench cradle beneath you. Here, the seafloor is smoother, polished by millennia of silt and stillness. You settle, and the ocean accepts you. It does not test you. It does not quiz you on what you've learned. It just lets you lie there, quiet, still, forgotten by everything that doesn't matter. You feel the faint swirl of sediment gathering on your back. Not enough to bury, just enough to bless. Above, another shimmer. Bioluminescence. Not from a creature, but from bacteria, living light on rock and shell, flickering like a galaxy beneath the sand. Not random, not chaotic, just alive, in the quietest, slowest way something can be. And then you let go of thought. There is no more naming, no more mapping, no more cataloging the beautiful and strange. Now, everything is just part of everything else. The fish are not fish. The chimneys are not vents. The floor is not ground. They are expressions of something larger, more whole, more fluid. You think of time, how it doesn't flow here, not like a river. It drips. It condenses. It settles. And so do you. The sediment welcomes you, layer by layer. The cold, no longer biting. The dark, no longer empty. It's not death. It's peace. A kind of exhale you didn't know you were holding. Finally released into a world that doesn't care if you're productive or clever or even awake. The ocean doesn't demand. It simply receives. And in that receiving, you feel something you never quite expected. Safety. Not because nothing can hurt you here, but because nothing wants to. Down here, everything is in agreement. You don't need to be anything more than what you already are, present. You don't remember when you stopped sinking. You don't remember when the weight left your chest. You don't even remember your last thought, because the deep has taken you into itself, not as a prize or a prisoner, but as a song returning to silence. And so, the deep sea holds you, still, breathing, part of everything, forever. And now we rise, not quickly, not all at once, just slowly, like a feather caught in the upward tide of breath. The ocean that once pulled you downward now lets you go gently. You drift back through its memory, carrying with you the soft pressure of stillness, the cool hush of layers that no light ever touches. You pass the trench edge again. No longer a wall, just a line you once crossed. The hydrothermal fields grow distant. The glowing worms fade. The glass sponge cathedral melts into dark. And above you, the marine snow still falls, eternally, patiently. Each flake a memory from above, or maybe a promise that life continues, even in the dark. You don't open your eyes. You don't have to. You've seen more clearly here in silence than most do in a lifetime of light. The water warms, ever so slightly. The pressure eases. The salt still holds you, but like a blanket now, not a weight. The world you left behind still waits above. But you will carry the deep with you, in your breath, in your blood. In a quiet way, you now understand that even in darkness, life pulses, soft and unstoppable. And if you ever feel overwhelmed again, remember this silence. Remember this peace. Remember that somewhere beneath your feet, the earth still breathes in dark and waits without urgency. Let it hold you. Let it hush you. Let it remind you. You are never truly alone. Sleep well, my friend.